Hi there, welcome. I just want to do a quick video to talk to you guys about Pluto and secrets. And I'm wearing a very Pluto color, very deep red. It's kind of a Pluto thing. Pluto governs secrets. Now, Pluto, in the ancient astrology pantheon, the Greeks, the Romans, they had a god called Pluto, right? He was either Pluto or Hades, depending on whether you're looking at Greek or Roman, and he governed the underworld, the subconscious. Hades, the dark, secret place where things were happening, deals were being made, and it was all kind of hush hush, okay? So some years ago, and I'll tell you exactly how long ago. So according to AI, and this is about right from what I remember, Pluto was officially reclassified from a planet to a dwarf planet on August 24th, 2006 by the International Astronomical Union, IAU, during a meeting in Prague when they established a formal definition for a planet that Pluto failed to meet, primarily by not clearing its orbital neighborhood of other objects. That is because planet lives in a place called the Oort belt, which is a place with just icy objects way out in the far reaches of our, planetary system. So they claimed it's no longer a planet. Even though the Greeks and the Romans, they knew many, many centuries ago that these things actually worked for, psychology, for human nature, for understanding how things actually work. So this video is just to explain what it means that they made it a secret, or that they said it's not a planet anymore. What they basically did was they took the secrets, because here's what Pluto governs. Okay, let's talk about that. Pluto governs things like stocks, bonds, all financial instruments, including derivatives, stock markets, wills, inheritance, legacies, things, anything that is sort of combined financial power. So anytime that there's money that is being used together, it could be marriage money where you combine your money with another person. It can be collectively, right? Things like the money system we use, what kind of currency we agree has value. Okay, so these are very important things. They have a lot to do with things like pensions, retirement funds, the mortgage on your house, which literally has a Pluto word in it, mort, which means death, mortgage. Pluto is that, I think of it more like a membrane between life and death. Okay, people can cross that membrane and still stay alive, right? You can cross that membrane when you cross over. It is the river Styx that death, the figure of death, takes the soul across the river Styx. So there's a lot of myth about this depth, right? And this hidden secret. It's all about the subconscious in the psychology. It would be like your id. If you understand like Freudian psychology, I'm not a fan of Freud, but the id is I believe, like a real place. It's where the deep, dark, intense, so what we might call infantile drives come from, okay? So the drives of an infant, if an infant's really angry but never learned any capacity for dealing with it, then you have a person who has explosive anger issues. This is very Plutonic. It's any kind of compulsive, uncontrollable, addictive pattern all comes from the id, all comes from unresolved parental, childhood, trauma, conflicts. It's all based in this subconscious thing that happens when you're very young, because we are, as humans, kind of like an open, sort of like to be programmed like being until we're about 8. It's about the age of 8 that we move out of, that sort of just sponge state into a more consciously differentiated state. It's extreme. It's even more critical the first 3 years of life, and that is where all that Pluto stuff is programmed. Is in the first 3 years, 1 to 3 years. Really intense things happen, which no one really remembers those first few years. I mean, some of us have some little memories, but in general, we'd have to go and put ourselves into like hypnosis, which is a very Pluto thing, to go in and dig into the subconscious in order to remember and dig out these things. So, and also past lives, because if you cross the river Styx, you go into that subconscious place, which hypnotherapy does, that is the Pluto, crossing of that membrane into that deeper, darker place. We can resolve any of our own issues. We can go into past lives, find out where those problems, issues, traumas, whatever came from. Sometimes they're not even from this lifetime when we have, issues. But a lot of these things will show up in life as compulsive, as, as repeating patterns that we don't know where they come from. So they usually come from something in our early childhood, which would be a triggering or repeating of a past life energy. Okay. This is what is called in esoteric terms, the great work is the work of clearing that stuff and being a conscious, purposeful individual in your life and not just acting out of subconscious programming that you're not aware of. Okay. And it takes work. It's certainly hard to how do I know what I don't know that I need to know in order to fix what I'm doing that I don't know that I'm doing? Okay. So there's a lot of unknown in there. There's a lot of the great void. Okay. And this is, I think of it maybe a little bit as like Black Panther medicine. Also, if you think of, animal totem medicine, think of it as very much the high priestess in the tarot. But it's also the Pluto card is the judgment card in the tarot, because the things that are driving us, even if they're driving us from a place that we're not consciously aware of, will lead us to a karmic result. So these are those patterns that repeat in our lives, and we can break those patterns. People who do that have done the great work. People who can break their family conditioning and their patterns are really rare, and they've done a lot of inner work on themselves. It's, it depends on how difficult your childhood patterning is, how hard it is to break, right? So my point here about Pluto and the depths of Pluto and the urgencies of Pluto, and by the way, if you want to read a really, really good book on Pluto astrologically, read, I think it's Robert Greene. His book on Pluto is incredibly good. He may have had a couple of them, but he talks about past life stuff. He talks about really crazy deep stuff. So it's really a good book if you want the depth of the psychology. I love that stuff. Anyway, the reason I'm talking about Pluto and the fact that they hid him, they made him not a planet anymore, was because then it's like throwing rocks and hiding your hands, right? It's like then they could say, we're not throwing rocks. We're not doing these things. It's so that the official system can control all of these instruments of Pluto, right? The financial instruments, the stocks, bonds. So basically what I'm saying is that by taking away the idea of Pluto as a force, oh my God, my dog started fighting, which is also a very Pluto thing. Anyway, by taking away the idea of Pluto as a force, as an official sort of planetary force, what they've done is managed to hide whatever they're doing and acting like it's not really happening. Do they work in symbolism? Yes, they do. Do they work with these things? Yes, they do. They are sort of trying to bury aspects. I mean, they certainly did it between 2020 and 2024 with this whole idea of what's a woman? What's, we don't have any actual gender. This is like these are foundations. These are fundamental things upon which the human psychological framework is based. Okay. So to change that is to change our entire outlook on life. So this is what they did when they removed Pluto as a planetary force. Okay. So I'm here to tell you it still operates. It didn't go away. It just went away from our sort of awareness, our conscious awareness. So there's a lot more going on beneath the surface that's hidden, right? Throwing rocks and hiding your hands, acting like you're not doing what you're doing. So there's sort of a bigger ability to pull the wool over people's eyes who are not paying attention. It doesn't mean you can't pay attention. It doesn't mean you can't see it. You can if you're paying attention, right? So this is basically what I'm here to do, is to try and shine a light on things like that. I have a lot of Pluto in my chart. It's very prominent. It's aspecting my sun. I have Scorpio rising, which is also Pluto ruled. So a lot of Pluto ruled energy in my chart. So I understand Pluto pretty well. Okay. And I look deeply into things. So, but my point here is that if you have a lot of Pluto in your chart, it helps you to be able to be the kind of person who can make major transformation in yourself and others and the world around you. It's a lot of power. It's a lot of working with collective resources, not just money, but other types of resources. That could be the local food. That could be whatever the local community needs, whatever your group needs. It could be your family, it could be a marriage, it could be your whole community. It's really up to you. But a lot of Pluto influence does confer a lot of power in this world, which is also another reason why they wanted to sort of hide Pluto. They don't want individuals with power. Okay. So that is my point here. I just wanted to kind of go through Pluto and what's going on and how there's always been secrets, but now the secrets are secret. Like the fact that it's secret is secret. It's like they've sort of, buried it completely out of consciousness. And so how do we know, right? How do we look? Well, we have to be able to read between the lines, and we have to be able to see the fingerprints of the things that are happening in order to pull that thread and get deeper, cross that membrane into the depths to see what's actually going on there. Anyway, make sure you subscribe here because I do my best to translate the hidden to the public for you guys, and post some things down there that you might like me to look at. I will be looking at the currencies, at the cryptos that people have asked me to look at. I have an XRP video coming out. I did look at BCH. You can go back and look at that. I have my 2026 predictions video, which looks at what's going on for the next year. So take a look at that. Some of those predictions could be more long term, but in general, we're going to have a pretty dramatic year in 2026. So go watch that. And of course, you can always become a member if you want to know really what's happening on the fundamental level with the money system, with the finances, with crypto, with all of that, silver, gold, those things that also have real value. So that is it. I will talk to you guys later. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you subscribe. Talk to you later. Bye.